In the heart of a vast and silent desert, surrounded by rugged mountains and endless sands that stretch beyond the horizon, stands a city unlike any other. Mecca. Today, it is one of the most visited places on earth. Millions of people travel from every corner of the world, united by faith, drawn toward a single sacred center. But there was a time when this place was nothing. No buildings stood here. No people lived here. No water flowed here. Only burning heat during the day, freezing cold at night, and a stillness so deep it felt untouched by time itself. So how did this empty valley become the spiritual heart of billions? The story begins thousands of years ago, with a command given to Prophet Ibrahim, a command unlike any other. Allah instructed him to take his wife, Hajar, and their infant son, Ismail, and leave them in this barren land. There were no supplies for long-term survival, no visible means of support, and no sign that life could exist there. Yet Ibrahim obeyed. He brought them to this valley, placed them near a tree, left a small amount of food and water, and then began to walk away. Behind him stood Hajar, holding her baby, watching him leave. She called out to him again and again, asking why he was leaving them in such a place. But Ibrahim did not respond, not out of neglect, but because this was a command from Allah. Then she asked him one final question. Did Allah command you to do this? When he answered yes, everything changed. Her fear turned into trust. Her uncertainty turned into certainty. She said with unwavering faith that Allah would never abandon them. Days passed. The small supply of food disappeared. The water dried up. The desert showed its true nature, harsh, unforgiving, and relentless. Baby Ismail began to cry from thirst, and Hajar could not bear to watch her child suffer. Driven by desperation and hope, she ran toward a nearby hill known as Safa. She climbed it, scanning the horizon for any sign of help, a traveler, a caravan, anything. There was nothing. She rushed down and ran toward another hill, Marwa, searching again. Still nothing. Back and forth she went, running between Safa and Marwa, again and again, refusing to give up. Her heart was filled with urgency, but also with faith that Allah would provide. After the seventh time, as exhaustion reached its peak and hope seemed almost gone, something extraordinary happened. From beneath the feet of Ismail, water began to emerge. A small flow, then more, until it became a spring. Zamzam. In a place where life seemed impossible, Allah created a source of life. Hajar quickly gathered the water, protecting it, realizing its value. This was more than just survival, this was the beginning of something greater. And to this day, thousands of years later, that same water continues to flow, unchanged, uninterrupted, a living miracle in the desert. Water brings life, and life brings people. As time passed, travelers crossing the desert noticed birds circling in the sky above the valley. In the desert, birds are a sign that water exists below. Curious, they approached and discovered the spring of Zamzam. Soon after, a tribe known as Jurum requested permission from Hajar to settle near the water. She agreed, and slowly, the once empty valley began to transform. Tents appeared. Families grew. Trade routes began to pass through. What was once silent became alive. Years passed, and Ismail grew into a strong and capable young man, raised in this emerging community. He learned the ways of the desert, the language of the people, and the strength required to survive. Then one day, Ibrahim returned. After years of separation, father and son were reunited. But their reunion was not only emotional, it carried a purpose. Allah gave them a mission that would define Mecca forever. They were commanded to build the Kaaba. Together, they began raising its foundations. Stone by stone, they worked under the intense desert sun, constructing a structure that would stand for generations. This was not just a building. It was the first house established for the worship of Allah alone. As they built, they prayed, asking Allah to accept their effort and to make this place a center of guidance for humanity. The Kaaba became a symbol of unity, drawing people toward one direction, one purpose, and one Creator. Mecca was no longer just a settlement. It had become a sacred destination. But time changes people. Generations came and went, and slowly, the clarity of Ibrahim's message began to fade. What started as pure worship gradually became mixed with new ideas and practices. People introduced idols into their lives, believing these objects could bring them closer to Allah. At first, the change was small. Then it spread. Idols were placed around the Kaaba, first a few, then many, until hundreds filled the sacred space. The very place built for the worship of one God became surrounded by false gods. Mecca grew in power and importance. It became a center of trade, attracting merchants from distant lands. Wealth increased, influence expanded, and the city gained status among the tribes of Arabia. But spiritually, something was lost. The simplicity and purity of monotheism were replaced with rituals, traditions, and beliefs that had no foundation in the original message. People began to worship what they themselves had created, forgetting the one who created them. Despite this, traces of truth remained, faint, but not completely gone. And history was moving toward a moment that would change everything. In a year remembered as the Year of the Elephant, an extraordinary event took place. An army marched toward Mecca with the intention of destroying the Kaaba, but they were stopped before they could succeed. In that same year, a child was born. Muhammad. He grew up in Mecca, surrounded by a society filled with both strength and. Yet from a young age, he stood apart. He was known for his honesty, his integrity, and his character. People trusted him. They called him Al-Amin. As he grew older, he became increasingly aware of the corruption around him, the injustice, the idol worship, and the moral decline. Seeking clarity and truth, he would retreat to the Cave of Hira, away from the noise of the city, reflecting deeply. Then, at the age of 40, revelation came. A moment that would transform not only Mecca, but the entire world. He was given a message, to call people back to the worship of one God, to restore the truth that had been forgotten. But the people of Mecca resisted. The message challenged their beliefs, their traditions, and even their social and economic systems. Accepting it meant change, and change is never easy. The Prophet and his followers faced rejection, ridicule, and persecution. They were tested in ways that pushed them to their limits. Yet they remained firm. Because truth, once known, cannot be ignored. Years passed, and the message continued to spread despite the opposition. Then came the moment that would complete the story. The Prophet returned to Mecca. This time, not as someone forced out, but as a leader with strength and support. When he entered the city, he did not seek revenge. Instead, he showed mercy. He approached the Kaaba, the very structure built by Ibrahim, now surrounded by idols. One by one, those idols were removed. The Kaaba was purified. Mecca was restored. The city returned to its original purpose, a place dedicated to the worship of Allah alone. From an empty desert valley to the heart of Islam, the journey of Mecca is a story of faith, patience, and divine guidance. It shows that even when truth is forgotten, it is never lost. And that from the most unlikely place, something extraordinary can rise, something that changes the course of history forever.